Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. North Carolina is already suing the new Trump administration over a new executive order seeking to ban birthright citizenship. It's the first of probably many lawsuits targeting the executive orders Trump signed on his first day in office. Attorney General Jeff Jackson tells WRAL state government reporter Will Doran about that. Will joins us to break down what he's hearing from this lawsuit and how it fits into Trump's broader campaign promise to get tougher on immigration. Will, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
And, barely even 24 hours at the time that we're recording this into the Trump presidency and starting to see some of these legal battles start. So first of all, let's talk about birthright citizenship. What is it?
Yeah, this is something that I don't think a lot of people have paid super close attention to, but, in America for generations, we've had this rule that if you are born here, you become an American citizen. And that is called birthright citizenship. And it doesn't exist everywhere in the world, but basically the whole Western Hemisphere has it. And it's based on a part of the Constitution called the 14th Amendment that Donald Trump says has been wrongfully interpreted for the last 100+ years and needs to be really restricted to not be as basically generous as it is right now.
And that would be the part that says born or naturalized of the U.S., right?
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. So when Trump was sworn in Monday night, one of his first executive orders was to ban birthright citizenship. But this only would apply in some cases, right?
Right. So, obviously, if one or both of your parents is a citizen, you are a citizen. That's basically how every country in the world does it. That's, pretty standard. The question is just how do we deal with, people who have both parents who are immigrants? And Trump says that basically if both of your parents are undocumented, you don't get to be a citizen. And also, if both of your parents are here legally, but only on a temporary visa, say, like a student visa or a tourist visa or even a temporary work visa like H-1B, H-2A, some of those programs, their children would not be able to become citizens if this becomes law. So even people whose parents are here legally, Trump is saying should not be allowed to become citizens.
Okay. And since that executive order was signed, we've seen lawsuits popping up over this. Of course, the one here in North Carolina being one of them. And you just got off the phone with North Carolina Attorney General Jeff Jackson. Why does he say Trump's order is unconstitutional?
Well, he says it's just a plain reading of the text. I mean, the part of the Constitution that we're talking about is very brief and very direct. It just says all people born in the U.S., I'm paraphrasing here, are U.S. citizens. And so he says there's really no way to couch that, to get around that. There is a clause in there that Trump is going to heavily rely on in these legal battles that says all people who are subject to the jurisdictions of the United States. And historically, that's just meant it excludes ambassadors. So the ambassador to Micronesia or whatever, France, anywhere. If they're here in the U.S., have a kid, their kid doesn't become a U.S. citizen. But historically, that has just had that very specific kind of diplomatic connotation. Trump wants the courts to basically expand that to include basically all immigrants. Or not all immigrants, but all immigrants who are not at least green card holders.
Gotcha. Let's hear a little bit from Jackson himself on why he's seeking to stop Trump's citizenship order from happening.
Well, we knew some version of this was coming because he had forecast it. And when we read it last night, it was just a straightforward violation of the 14th Amendment. It was not a hard call from a legal standpoint as to whether or not this violates the Constitution. It plainly does. This is settled law. The Constitution and over a century of precedent leaves no room for executive reinterpretation. It's clear and binding.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the politics behind this legal battle over who gets to call themselves an American. Will, before the break, we heard from Attorney General Jeff Jackson on why he thinks Trump's order should be shot down. But what about Trump? What does he have to say about this?
Yeah, this was a big part of Trump's campaign. He talked a lot about at his rallies, on the campaign trail, and he talked about it in his inauguration speech on Monday too. He called this common sense. He said that this is really part of his agenda to make America great again, and specifically to restore value to American citizenship. So he thinks that, basically we have been too generous in deciding who gets to become an American, and basically need to make it harder to become an American citizen, and that will make it mean more to the people who do receive citizenship. So that's basically his argument for this.
Right. And given that, this particular part of the Constitution is in the 14th Amendment, have the courts ever weighed in on this before, or are we in kind of uncharted territory, legally speaking?
Well, you got to go back to 1898 to find this. But basically, what we've been doing all along stems from this court case. We passed the 14th Amendment immediately after the Civil War. And the main purpose was to say that people who were formerly enslaved are U.S. citizens. But it was written more broadly than that. It just said everyone born here is an American citizen. And so in the 1890s, we passed the some anti-Chinese immigration laws. And there was a Chinese person who was born here in the U.S., despite some of these anti-Chinese laws, who said, hey, I'm a U.S. citizen. They were trying to kick him out of the country. He said, you can't kick me out. I was born here. I'm a citizen. And the Supreme Court took that case up and said, yeah, he's right. The 14th Amendment says everyone, even immigrants who are born in the U.S., are citizens. And so that has been the interpretation that we have used ever since then, since the 1890s. But Trump basically is asking the Supreme Court to go back and revisit that.
Okay. And you've also talked to some local people who work directly with immigrants. What are they saying about this?
Yeah, I talked to the group North Carolina Asian Americans Together. There are a lot of especially Chinese and Indian immigrants, but also, plenty of other Asian ethnicities as well here in the Triangle who are here on student visas, on H-1B visas, which is what a lot of tech companies use to bring in skilled workers. And a lot of these people have dreams of making a life in America, having American children, and a lot of them are applying for green cards or for citizenship, but that process is just backlogged by years. And so, in the past, they might never have given a thought to timing how they're going to have kids, when they're going to have kids, because they thought that they had these guarantees in place. But if this order should stand, that's really going to change a lot of those people's plans, and just, really kind of throw that community into disarray, according to these community activists. And so they're really siding with the Democrats who are suing against this. North Carolina is not the only state suing. There are 18 states and then some individual cities as well, all Democrats joining in the lawsuit so far. So it is very politically divided. We haven't seen any Republican-led states join in on this lawsuit. And obviously immigration was a big political divide in the election as well.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Thank you so much, Will. For more on Trump's executive orders on immigration and more, and how they affect us here in North Carolina, check out the NC Capital section of WRAL.com. Thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. That's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.